Hall, Psychic here from the Gold Coast on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. Well, another week has flown by. I mean, I hope you're having fun wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours. It's a good time to be alive, isn't it? I mean, you know, the sun's shining, hopefully, where you are. It's a bit overcast and stormy here, but anyway, we can always pretend the sun's shining. And, you know, the year is starting to slip on by. We're nearly at the end of the first month of this year. So isn't it amazing how quickly time flies when we're having fun? So this week, the Simply Tarot card of the week is the Ace of Wands. Now, the Ace of Wands represents new beginnings, birth, new ideas and creations. Now, when we were designing the Simply Tarot cards many, many moons ago now, this was the very, very first card that we worked on. So it's always been my ultimate favourite card because it was the very first card we worked on. And the actual frangipani bush or stick that I'm holding in my hand there, and that is actually my hand, was out of my garden. So it was sort of like beautiful backdrop of here from the Gold Coast and the frangipani trees, which are one of my favourites that have a beautiful flower. And, you know, it was the first card. It was the new beginnings. It was the birth, the new ideas, the creation. So I think for each and every one of us, I think it's time now that we try and put our best foot forward and try and create something new in our lives. Let's look for new ideas. Let's look for fresh ideas. Let's look for starting sort of almost as if it's the beginning of the new year. Let's try and create something marvellous in our lives. We've had so much doom and gloom for the last 2 years with this pandemic worldwide. I think it's time now we've got to turn a corner, even if it's only in our own mind, of starting to look for new, innovative, creative ideas of ways that we can move forward. And I think that's the really important part. So here in Australia, it's Australia Day today. So we're celebrating what makes our nation great, I suppose, in some sort of way. And some people sort of call it an ambiguous day because our Indigenous population call it Invasion Day and we white folks call it Australia Day. So it's nice to sort of see that the nation will come together and the place will party. Let me assure you, it's only very early in the morning here in Australia. But as the day unwinds, people will get together. They'll have barbecues and they'll have thong throwing competitions. For those people that don't live in Australia, thongs here are actual rubber sandals that you put on your feet when the bitumen's too hot to walk on. And they're affectionately known as our Japanese flying boots here. I don't know where that name came from, but I know in many other parts of the world, a thong is an item of clothing. But here in Australia, it's not. It's something that you actually put on your feet. There'll be probably too many people having too much of the amber liquid later on, you know, celebrating the day, or a glass of champers. For me, it'll be a cup of coffee and just a relax. But for many people, it's a very significant day where there will be parties going on around the world. And I think it's a day to be proud of for us Australians here. And, you know, we have many, many expats that live overseas that I know still celebrate the day, even though they're a long way from home. But anyway, let's get on with the astrology section. We've got a lot to get through today. We've got Mercury, the planet of communication, which I spoke about last week, and I actually gave you the wrong information when I said Mercury was going to go direct at the end of this month. Maybe that was a bit of wishful thinking on my part. It actually won't be until about the 7th of February or February 7th. So we're right in the thick of the Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrogrades happen 3 times a year, and because Mercury is the planet of communication and anything that's connected to communication, whether it's the words that come out in your voice, it's what you write, it's what you might send in a text message, an email, on Messenger or any other form of social media. So it's all forms of communication. It's not just what we voice that we need to be very careful of. We need to make sure the other person or the people that we're sending it to fully understand what we're trying to convey, what we're sharing with them, that they fully understand it and we fully understand what's being said to us. So traditionally, this is not the time to sign a contract if you can get away with it. If you have to, then make sure that you really, really, really read the fine print. And if I'm in a situation like that under a Mercury retrograde where I do have to sign something important, I tend to read it out loud, and I probably do it more than once, so that way, hopefully, if there's a mistake there or something I'm not happy with, I will pick it up and it can be amended before, you know, pen goes to paper and all of a sudden you've signed your life away. So it's really, really important at the moment. It's not the time to have a major discussion with somebody of any great importance. So it's no shock to sort of see that things aren't going too well between the US and Russia at the moment as they're trying to negotiate what's happening there on the border of Ukraine. It's not the most ideal time for those sort of negotiations, but look, fingers crossed that they can sort of dampen that down and sort of prevent anything from happening. So, you know, in our more personal sort of world, we need to be careful of what we talk about with other people or our bosses or our neighbours or the people that are important to us, because sometimes this is when people misunderstand, haven't got their listening ears on, and don't really fully comprehend what you're talking about, and tempers can flare and arguments can flare up. So having said all that, Mercury's sitting in Aquarius at the moment. So anytime Mercury sits in Aquarius, he tends to be a little bit brash anyway, tends to be a little bit more bombastic than normal, because he doesn't always necessarily share with us all the details, because Mercury can think so quickly and enables us to think so quickly. Our mind is thinking and processing information quicker than what we're actually physically sharing it. So we have to be careful of that as well, because everything's just going at such a fast pace that we think we've told somebody something or we've shared an important detail and we haven't. It's only what we thought about in our minds, but we haven't actually shared the information. So again, I'm going to say to you, err on the side of caution. On the positive side of the Mercury retrograde, this is a time, particularly while it's in Aquarius, that we could have some amazing breakthroughs. We could have those real light bulb moments where we really do get solutions to things that have been troubling us for quite some time. So there's always a positive to things. I don't want you to just sort of dwell on the negative, and I don't look at it as being Mercury retrograde as being a negative. I look at it as, let's sort of stop, look and listen before we speak, and then everything's going to be okay. You know, we need to have some times in our lives where we slow down and catch our breath a little bit, and this is one of those times. So Mercury retrograde is actually holding hands or conjunct the sun, which is in Aquarius at the moment. So happy birthday to all the Aquarians out there. It's their time of the year for them to shine. So when the sun's in Aquarius, it's a time when I think we can all become a tiny little bit restless. For some people, it's the time when they get some absolutely amazing, brilliant ideas. For other people, they sort of say, look, I'm feeling a bit titchy, I'm feeling a bit nervous, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable, I can't seem to settle, I can't seem to sort of, you know, yes, I can focus on things, but then my mind's racing so much that I'm focusing on 10 things at once. And that's the Aquarian energy. But it's also a time when I think we can dare to be a little bit different, or maybe think outside the square and come up with some innovative new solutions to the things that are going on in our lives. So I actually enjoy the Aquarian time of the year. It's a time when I think we can sort of get some abstract thinking and get some new ideas and sort of freshen everything up for the, you know, it is only the beginning of the new year. So let's come up with some fresh, innovative new ideas and let's start cracking on with this year and make it really work for us. The other thing that we have also happening, we have lots of planets. The planets are always continually moving their way around the zodiac, but when we find that a planet moves into a new sign, it's when it's at its very strongest, and it's also at its strongest when it's coming to the end of that sign before it moves into the new energy. So Mars has just joined the plethora of planets in Capricorn. Now, with Mars in Capricorn, when I saw this morning, I went, oh, okay, because Mars is the planet of action. Mars is the planet that's technically associated with war or conflict. Now, the fact that it's just gone into Capricorn, which represents big business, governments, people in positions of authority. So you can understand now why I had a little gulp of air and said, okay, right, you know, with all the trouble and the unrest that's sitting on the border there with Ukraine, with Russia and the Americans and the rest of the world is sitting back and watching and waiting with bated breath and sort of, you know, getting their troops ready in case needed, that everybody's going to be sort of looking at the moment, hoping that they can keep these talks going, to keep things sort of under wraps, that nobody's going to be the first one to make a move in a warlike fashion. I'm not predicting war. I want to be very clear on that. But with Mars just entering Capricorn, what I'm saying to you or suggesting to you is things are a little bit more tricky than they were previously. It doesn't mean that that's the ultimate answer. We must have to look at this in a positive way, that this could be just the breakthrough that we need, that negotiations might be able to be ramped up a notch or two, that maybe both sides will come to some common sense and sort of say, this is really silly. We've got to be able to negotiate a solution here that, you know, nobody's going to completely get all the things that they want on the table, but let's try and find a solution for the sake of the rest of the world. Let's hope that's what happens. I mean, the last thing we need, we're still in a worldwide pandemic, is people sort of going to war over something which we mere mortals will probably say is quite silly. And why would they be doing this? You know, like, I mean, every country has a right to their freedom and to be able to make choices and decisions that are best for their people in their nation. And I think we should respect that. We have Venus, the planet of love and affection, is also retrograde at the moment, but Venus is definitely coming to the end of her retrograde, and it will be in the next couple of days, is sitting in Capricorn at the moment. So when we have Venus in Capricorn, we're looking at things in a more grown-up sort of way. Venus is the planet of love and affection, but also the planet of the things that we love to do. Now, the things that put a smile on our face, the things that make us feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. So Venus at the moment is in Capricorn and is making a really, really nice, easy, positive transit to the planet Uranus sitting in Taurus. Now, what this means is for some people, there may have been a real sudden love interest that has sort of crossed your path and taken you by surprise and sort of, wow, I would never have thought I would have fallen for someone like that, or they're completely different to the person that I imagined I was going to fall in love with. And for other people, it may just be all of a sudden you've had this brilliant idea. Something sparked a little flame inside you, a passion inside you that sort of said, oh, why have I stopped doing that? Or why haven't I got around to doing that yet? I'm really, really interested in it. So it may be sparking some new hobbies, some new interests, which could go on to become our profession. So what an exciting time. So Venus here is sort of really spreading her fairy dust around in many sort of ways. For some people, it's a love interest. For other people, it's the sparking of new ideas or the things that we just haven't had time to deal with lately or, you know, had the time to devote to. And for many people, this could lead into a completely different area of life. So for all of us, Venus is sprinkling her magic dust around all of us in some way or another, that it's just might just be that you're enjoying sitting back and watching a bit of telly or losing yourself in a movie or listening to some music or doing the things that give you pleasure. So, you know, there's lots of different things that give us pleasure. So just be aware that that transit is nearly almost over. So we don't want to waste that magical energy of Venus trining Uranus in Taurus. It's an opportunity that we don't get very often, that we can sort of do something that brings pleasure to us. We also have Jupiter, the planet of opportunity, expansion and opportunity, is also sitting in Aquarius at the moment. So this is really, Jupiter's asking us to really expand out of our horizons and look at things in a different way. Sort of let's create some opportunity in our lives. Now, let's bring in things that can really sort of expand our lives out and make our lives better. We still have Neptune sitting in Pisces. So for the darling little Pisceans, they're still going through a very creative streak. For the rest of us mere mortals, it may just be finding new and innovative ways to tackle our day-to-day lives and, you know, not get so bogged down and bored with things or get so frustrated with things. You know, learn to laugh at yourself a little bit. I think that's really important, that we need to take a less serious side to life. We're going to speak with Monica now in Cleveland in Iowa. You really would think I'm really getting tongue-tied today. Mercury is really playing havoc with my voice today. Anyway, we're going to talk with Monica. Monica, how are you, dear?
Good. How are you?
That's great, sweetie. Do you have a question I can work with today, please, darling?
Just trying to get some insight on my future with regards to, you know, where I'm headed.
Okay, that's a very good question, Monica. Look, I mean, I think there's many people around the world today are asking the same sort of question. I mean, where am I going? What am I about? You know, am I on my right path? Have I really listened to my own instincts about where I should be going? The first thing that they were sharing with me, Monica, as you were asking that question was there is a number of endings of changes and transformations coming up around you at the moment. So to me, that's a really positive sign to come up first when you're asking, where are you going? What do I need to be looking at? That shows me that you haven't left any stone unturned. Anything that you needed to sort of soul search on, to sort out, to complete, to understand, to be able to let go of. All those things are now complete. Now, that's really important when we're looking to sort of leap forward into the future with some new opportunities, that we're not taking the past with us in that way. Yes, we can take it in memories and the experience and the wisdom we've learned, but we don't necessarily want to take the lessons with us because we've completed them. So I'm pleased to say that you've done that. The first thing that they're showing me, there's still going to be some question marks here around what direction you need to take, I think, for at least the next month, Monica. So I don't want you to be too hard on yourself that, the more you try and sort things out, the more questions or the more possibilities that come up and you still can't make a decision. It's because the timing is not precisely right yet for sort of putting things to bed and saying, right, that's that, locked in. It's a time of flexibility. It's a time of allowing things to come in and out of your mind, to look at many different possibilities. The first thing that they're showing me is, I don't know whether you were thinking about making a move, and I'm not just talking about a local move, but a potential relocation, because they're showing me that's on the table for discussion. Is that something you've been looking at?
Yes.
Oh, good. Because I was questioning what they were giving me, because they were giving me that information, but they still had question marks around it. And I thought, now, are they saying it's something to come, or is she questioning it, or, is it something that's sort of just one of those fleeting ideas that, sort of is floating in and out? Okay. So the relocation, if it's going to take place, it's certainly not going to be in the next month. I'm sort of looking somewhere between sort of the end of March and probably the end of June as being the strongest point then of not necessarily actually maybe making the physical move, but when the decisions are going to be made and we really start to put this in action. This will open up a completely brand new life for you, and not just because you've made the move, but I think it's opening doors up that you can't even begin to imagine yet. So with this relocation, are you planning or looking at going somewhere that has a familiar feel, but I wouldn't have necessarily said, I'm going home?
Yeah, that actually describes it pretty well. Like,
because
yeah,
go on.
I kind of like, I get, like, I have mixed feelings about it. Part of me is like, let's do it and something new, and then other parts are like, do I really want to go into that? I don't know,
Yeah, and that's why I think it's important to be flexible at the moment, Monica, and just allow those emotions to come and go like the tide. You know what I mean? If you do that, when you get out of bed one morning and you know exactly what you're going to do, you'll have no hesitation, because you've been through those layers of emotion, and it'll be just so strong then that you're right, this is it. You get a pen out and a paper and you start making notes about when you're going to do and what you've got to do and when you're going to make it happen, and it'll just sort of all fit into place. It's a really important move. We've got to get this move right, because this is going to be the catalyst for many other things that come behind it, like work and new friends and all those sort of things, and somewhere new to live and whatever. But it's like I'm leaving behind this section of my life. It's like I'm shutting the door on this and I'm opening up to something brand new, something really exciting, but it can be scary too, because, as I said, you've got those question marks. Am I doing the right thing? Am I not? Or whatever. And that's very healthy. So I think you're in an amazing position, Monica. Just don't rush it. Let it come to you naturally. And if it takes a bit longer than what I've, the timing that they've given me, so what? Doesn't matter. It's okay. You've got to wait for it to be really strong that you can't think of anything else, and then you'll know it's right. You'll just know. At the moment, It's just a wait and see game. So just enjoy the time, sit back and watch a movie and just, let your mind wander. It's okay. You don't have to have all the answers today.
Okay.
Okay, that's where we're going to leave Monica now. We're going to talk with Kristen in East Amherst in New York. Are you there, Kristen?
I am here. Thank you, Amanda.
You're very welcome, sweetie. What's your question, sweetheart?
I just was wondering if there was anybody that wanted to give a message to me.
Really difficult, Kristen, in the short amount of time that we've got. I can share with you that we always have our passed over relatives, our spirit guides are always in connection with us. They don't always like coming through in a very public way like this. Sometimes they're a little bit shy. I do know, though, that from what I'm being shown is that How do I describe this? You're showing me tadpoles. Now, that seems a peculiar thing to say to somebody, but it's like you being a tadpole swimming around in a bowl of water, and it's like, it's okay. You don't have to have all the answers today. You know, you can just swim around and have a bit of fun and just let life come and go, and don't be so serious all the time. I think that's what they're trying to share with me, that you've been through so much in this last 3 or 4 years where everything had to be sort of planned like a military precision, that we can just sort of exhale a bit now and just let things just unfold. Do you know what I mean? We don't have to be in the driver's seat all the time. Is that making sense to you?
Mhm. A little bit, yes.
Good, because that's what they're showing me. And when I say they, I felt it was more than one person from the other side. It was sort of like I had a group of people there, and they're all just sort of sitting there and sort of saying, well, you know, just tell them to just chill. You know, it's okay. Everything's under control. And that's not easy for you. You like to have everything mapped out.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's so difficult that, you know, to get you to just go with the flow is really foreign to you. But you're going to have to learn that, sweetheart, because for you to get more messages from the other side, you've got to trust in the process. You've got to allow sometimes there is no answer, that the answer will happen as it's meant to, that we can't always have everything sorted out. And that's hard. I mean, I like to plan. I like to be one of those ones. I have plan A to Z. You know, if this one fails, I've got another one behind it. But to be able to sort of let go of that and just go with it is a very big ask. By about June this year, though, I feel that there's going to be a massive change in your life. There's something that's sort of like turning a corner. Then are we working towards something in a professional sense? Are you still doing some study or some extra learning or something that by then it should sort of all come together?
No. I was actually just like, well, I'm possibly losing my job in June because I have a temporary job, and it's possibly coming to an end in June. So I don't know if it's saying that my job will come to an end and then I'll get another one. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair comment. But what they were showing me was some extra learning or freshening something up to put you in a better position. So could that be possible, that you might sort of just upgrade some skills or something to put you in a better position to get another job?
No, not really. I wasn't doing any learning or anything. So not quite sure what that's referring to.
Yeah, but sometimes when they show me something like that, we tend to think of learning, of going off and physically learning something and getting a piece of paper that says I've achieved something. Sometimes it's just a matter of going back and looking at what our skill set is and thinking, oh, hang on a minute, I haven't done that particular program for a while. Maybe I better go in and just refreshen things up in my, you know, for myself, to know that I'm competent with that I can put that on the CV and say, yes, I can do such and such, you know, and that would come across in the same sort of way. I just sort of felt it was like you getting everything sort of organised, ready to start looking for another job. But I actually feel the job's going to find you. I think before this particular job comes to an end, this temporary one that you've got now, there's another opportunity going to come. Somebody's going to ring you out of the blue and say, hey, are you looking for work by any chance? We've got this opening coming up in such and such a time, and you came to mind. So, you know, don't rule anything out. I mean, certainly put it out there with your family and your friends that the potential you might need another job. You know, nothing's set in stone at the moment. And see what comes out, because I actually feel you're going to be offered something and it's like, wow, isn't that divine timing? You know, I only just got the word yesterday that this is coming to an end in 5 weeks' time, and bingo, here's an opportunity landing in my lap. So it's like, you know, you don't necessarily have to take it because it's landed in your lap unless it really suits you. But if it does, that's great. And if it doesn't, well, it's like, okay, well, that's the first opportunity that's come. Let's see what else can come out of this. So I do feel the second half of this year will feel more like you being back in the driver's seat again, where, you know, you're back in control. You're the one calling the shots again. By about September, there's a question mark around where you're living. Now, I'm not sure how to interpret that, whether or not that means that you're questioning on making a move or questioning buying a property or something. There's question marks there around where you're living and money.
Okay.
Were you looking to maybe purchase a
mean-
property this year?
I mean, I always nudge my boyfriend that we should do that, but you know,
Mhm.
with the way things are going, housing prices are very high where I live. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
I've
look,
always
you know,
made
who knows what's
suggestions
gonna
about
happen in
that,
the
but
next
we've
few
never
months.
like done anything serious about it.
Mhm. Yeah, but I mean, if you get yourself
Mhm.
into a good paying job that's a permanent position, that you can sort of really start to breathe a little bit easier and things, you know, ramp up in the relationship. Who knows what discussions are going to be on the table then with the two of you about talking about your future and, you know, trying to get your foot onto the property market and things like that. I mean, you know, I appreciate property prices are expensive where you are, but if something's meant to happen, there's always something that can come out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? That golden opportunity that we didn't think about, or, you know, changes in local opportunities where we've got opportunities to get on a
Mhm.
property market that aren't there today. So anyway, that's where we're going to leave Kristen now in New York. We've come to the end of the show. So for the rest of our fellow Aussies around the world, happy Australia Day. And I don't think we can close the show off without my song of the week. And this week, there's only one choice. It's our unofficial national anthem here in Australia, You're the Voice by John Farnham. I think everybody around the country probably knows the words to that better than our real national anthem. And if you don't, shame on you. But most people know it from 2 to 92. And it's a beautiful voice, a beautiful song by a man with a beautiful voice. So wherever you are in this world of ours today, even if you're not Australian, join with us and celebrate Australia Day. And until next week, bye for now.